Hello and welcome to Mountain Chef. Today I've got a guest host, and this is Doug Martin. He's my teammate and co-world champion Dutch oven cook. And I've asked him to come in today to show how to make our tropical dream cake, which is going to be one of the recipes in his new book coming out in spring 2015 called Sweet Cast Iron Creations. So everybody look it up, and I'm going to turn the time over to Doug and let him show what he does.
Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our raspberry cake first. What I'm going to start here is with our dry ingredients. So in here I have pre-measured out, this is 2 cups of flour and 2 cups of sugar. Okay, and you're going to want 1 teaspoon of salt. And we're going to have baking soda and baking powder, and you're going to need 1.5 teaspoons of each. Okay, now that we have our dry ingredients, go ahead and move into our wet. So we've got 1 cup of coconut milk. It'll give you a really nice texture to your cake. Okay, we've got a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. And next we're going to go with 3 large eggs. And now for this first cake, this is going to be our raspberry cake. We're going to add 5 teaspoons of raspberry extract. And we're going to go with a teaspoon of red food coloring to give us that nice pink color and contrast when we make our checkerboard cake. Okay, we're going to have one ingredient here left in 1 second. It's going to be a cup of boiling water, but you want to go ahead and get this mixed up before you add the water in. And it'll kind of help start tempering your eggs.
You know, I've had some people ask us, why we went with the raspberry when it's a tropical cake. And the reason we did that, we had a lot of different attempts on this cake using different flavorings, such as Jamaica and a couple other things, guava. But we found that the raspberry has just the right amount of acidity mixing with the coconut to give it a really, really nice flavor that gives it that tropical flavor. And so, although raspberry isn't necessarily tropical, it works really well with this cake.
Absolutely. This is a great cake, and raspberry does work real well with the coconut.
So this is a really important step that he's doing now. He's mixed up the cake batter, but we're adding in the cup of boiling water. And what that's going to do is it's going to temper those eggs. Because all those eggs in there, it's going to slowly rise them up, so that when you cook them, the eggs stay nice and soft and moist. If you don't do that, the eggs tend to firm up a little bit. And this will make your cake have a really nice rich texture and be extremely moist and nice. So that's the reason we do that.
The other thing it's going to help you with is when you're cutting your rings to do your checkerboard cake, it's going to be very easy to work with, and they're not going to fall apart on you.
So you notice, if you want to pan in here, how loose this cake batter is. So for this reason, it's really important that you're using a very level surface to cook it with. If you're going to cook in these Dutch ovens outside, you're going to want to make it nice and level and pour the cake batter into it. Otherwise you'll get a lopsided cake. Same with your oven at home. Just check and make sure it's level. It's going to help you out a ton.
Okay, now we have both of our cakes mixed up. We started with our raspberry cake. Now we moved on and we've gone ahead and mixed up our coconut cake. Only difference in the 2 cakes is we don't use the raspberry extract and we don't use the food color. And then we added a little bit of coconut oil, about a 1/4 teaspoon of coconut oil. Okay, so now we're up to the point where we're ready to put these in our Dutch oven. So I'm going to show you a little trick. It's going to get these out real clean and easy for you. They're not going to stick to the bottom. So the first thing we're going to do, just take your cooking spray. I like to use the butter because the flavor is better. Spray the bottom of your pan. Okay, and then we're just going to take these parchment rounds that you can find at your kitchen store, local to wherever you're at. And put it in the bottom, and then we're going to spray that again so it doesn't stick to your cake when your cake comes out. And then slowly go ahead and pour this in, because if you spray it, if you dump this in too fast, it's going to lift the edges of your parchment and it's going to get stuck in the middle of your cake. So just start in the center of your parchment and slowly pour it out.
So what are the advantages of cooking in this cast iron as opposed to cooking in a normal cake pan?
Well, for me, the cast iron is going to have a lot more even heat. Your cake's going to cook a lot more evenly, and you're not going to have like this side's cooked, this side's still not quite cooked, and it's going to be nice and done all at the same time. The other thing is it's going to raise nice and even. A lot of the other cookware, you're going to have like big domes on top of your cakes. These tend not to have that.
Well, that's cool. A lot of people think if you have a Dutch oven you have to use it outside with charcoal, but the truth of the matter is that I use my cast iron, and especially my Dutch ovens, several times a week.
Absolutely. I've gone to right now Dutch ovens, and my cast iron are all that I use in my kitchen. One thing with these cakes, as runny as they are, you don't want to even look at them for at least 45 minutes. If you try and start peeking at your cakes a little sooner, they're going to end up dropping on you and you're going to have a sunken donut for a cake.
Yeah, and there's one other thing I wanted to mention when we were doing the ingredients before. A lot of cake recipes only call for baking powder, and if you guys notice, we put in both baking powder and baking soda in equal increments. And the reason that we've done that is we're using the baking powder for the leavening to allow it to rise, and we're using the baking soda to actually firm up the proteins within the eggs, and that'll give it a nice, good structure, a strong structure to work with. So it's important to realize why we did that. Okay, let's go ahead and put these in.
Okay, just to show you how to tell when these cakes are done, I usually will just open it and you just give it a little tap on the side. Right now you can see that they don't move at all, they're nice and firm. If you give them a little tap and they have a little jiggle to it, just give them another 4 or 5 minutes and check them again. Do the same thing, give them a little tap. And once they get to the point where they're not moving, go ahead and do the test with the probe and make sure they come out nice and clean. And once you hit that point, just pull them out and let them cool for about 10 minutes in your pan before you try and pull them out. Okay, we've let our cakes sit here for about 10 minutes cooling in the pot, so it's time to go ahead and pull them out onto our cooling rack. So just going to take a butter knife and we're going to run around the edge, make sure it's not sticking to our pot here. Okay, should just pop right out for us now. So we're just going to take our cooling rack, turn it upside down in between the handles of our Dutch oven. Grab the handles in your pot and we're just going to turn it right over. And there we go, plop. Cake comes right out. And now we'll go ahead and just move these and lift our Dutch oven right off.
Now I'm going to have Doug demonstrate how to make his cream cheese frosting that we're going to coat this tropical cake with. This is a super easy recipe, really easy to do. So I'm going to let Doug take over and show you what to do.
Okay. Yep, as Matt said, this is a very easy recipe. Anybody can make it, but it's a very good tasting one. So all we're going to need is 1 block, an 8-ounce block of cream cheese, 1 cup of butter, which is 2 sticks, a teaspoon of vanilla, and 2 to 3 cups of powdered sugar. It just depends on how you like the texture of your frosting. The more powdered sugar you add to it, the softer it's going to be. So I usually like mine a little bit tougher, a little harder, because I like it's easier to spread on your cake. It doesn't start melting off the sides, and I also like to be able to taste the cream cheese in my frosting.
Now it's really important with this butter and this cream cheese to either let it sit out on the counter for a little while, or to even zap it in the microwave for a couple of seconds just to soften it. And it's a lot easier to work if it's been softened and at room temperature.
Okay, the first thing we're going to do before we add our powdered sugar in is we'll get all this in. We'll get the butter and the cream cheese and the vanilla all creamed up together, and then we'll start going from there with the powdered sugar.
I love the smell of the Mexican vanilla.
It is a lot better than your normal, lot stronger scent to it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just start dumping in some of my powdered sugar. I'll probably go with about half of it to get started. And we'll go ahead and mix that up until it gets to nice and smooth and creamy. The other thing that you want to do when you're using your powdered sugar, for me the best to use is the C&H pure cane sugar. If you use like your store brand, a lot of those are made out of sugar beets, so they're going to be a little bit grainy. and can cause your frosting to be a little grainy. So I try and stick with the pure cane sugar. We got our cream cheese frosting here. It's all mixed up. It's really nice and smooth. The other reason I like to do just this is because it's nice and white. It gives you a nice canvas if you want to go ahead and decorate your cake afterwards.
Well, this consistency is just perfect. I mean, look at that. It's very easy to work and extremely good. I don't normally dip my fingers in it, but we're at home so we can dip our fingers all we want.
But it's nice and velvety smooth. It's real easy to frost on these cakes, and the cakes that we're doing will have a texture to it that you're not going to tear your cake. It'll just be great, real easy for you to do. Okay, well now we're let our cakes cool, so we're going to go ahead and get these separated into our layers so we can go ahead and make our checkerboard cake. So what I have here, you can get at any store. I got this one at Walmart for about $3. It's just a cake leveler, so you can separate it a lot easier and you have nice even layers. So we're just going to start on one side and start working our way through the cake. So we're almost through here. Got to kick it a little bit easy because some of these edges will, when you cook them, they get a little bit tough. So they tend to try and pull your outside edge off. So if you just kind of hold that edge, it'll keep you from doing that.
This little tool has really helped us out a lot. We used to use a big knife to do this, and it was a tough gig trying to get that level.
Yeah, the trouble is when you try and use a knife to separate these, you end up looking like you're on a river because your cake goes like this. And it's a little tough to make it look the way you want your finished product to be. Now we're ready to go ahead and start cutting our rings and putting our layers together for our checkerboard cake. Now I have this kind of specialized tool here that I had made for me just for this purpose of cutting these rings. You're probably not going to be able to find anything like this out there, but you can use cups, saucers, plates, whatever you have in your kitchen, just to make you some nice equal rings. But so we'll go ahead and cut this first one here. Now they do like to stick a little, so you just give it a little turn and then start. For this one I just give it a little push, just so it finishes separating. And you can see the texture of this cake, how easy this is to work with. It's very spongy, and you don't really have to worry about it falling apart on you. Okay, so now to put this cake together, we will go ahead and have our first outer ring. We're just going to take a little thin layer of our frosting, and it's going to act kind of like a glue for us. We're just going to do it all the way around this layer here. Doesn't have to be perfect, you just want to get it all the way around. Okay, so now we got that first layer done, so we're up to just go to one size smaller in the ring, drop that ring in there. Now the same thing, we're going to go ahead and put a layer of frosting in here. Okay, so now we have our first layer done. See how we alternated our colors, kind of looks like a big bullseye here. So now we're just going to go ahead and use our larger spatula and put a layer of frosting in between here. Doesn't have to be real thick, just enough to get a nice little coating. Okay, so that's all really there is to it. Now you just start your next layer, and you start with the opposite color that you started your bottom layer with, and you're just going to continue to work up through all 4 layers. Okay, so we got our cake all assembled and put together, and let's go ahead and cut a slice and show you what the inside looks like. And there we go.
Look
Got
how
your
beautiful
nice
it is.
checkerboard, nice pink and white. Came out just fine.